This will not make you Instagram famous.
Wait, his hands look heavy.
Hi, my name is Chris Smith, and I want to personally thank you for getting Smokescreen. Smokescreen is a handheld, palmable prop. It's actually very small, about the size of $4.50. And what Smokescreen allows you to do is you just place it into finger palm, and anytime you want smoke, reach into your pocket, palm it, and just by squeezing the unit, you get smoke at your fingertips. And it's white, sort of milky smoke. And what's great about this is there's a number of effects you can do with it. You can hold a coin at the edge of your fingers and do an optical bend as the coin smokes. You can do the same with a spoon. You could have a spectator's selected card change within their hands, between their closed hands, by holding their hands, having smoke come out, so when they turn it over, it's a dramatic revelation. What I like best about Smokescreen is I made it super practical, super tiny, and super strong. If you accidentally drop it, it should work just fine. Also, very little maintenance is necessary, and the upkeep on it is very, very inexpensive, as we're going to show you in the video ahead. The first thing you do when you receive your unit is remove it from its Mylar bag, and they're shipped with a partial charge, but you just want to make sure they have a full charge. So the first thing you do is take this white switch and you move it down this way towards the LED, away from the screws, just with your fingernail. And when you do, it turns on the blue LED light, which indicates the unit is on. Then you'll use your micro USB cable and plug it into the unit. And when you do, you'll notice that the unit blinks. When it's blinking, that means it's charging. And by the way, if you have this USB plugged into your computer, it's going to take longer to charge, maybe 2 or 3 hours. If you have this USB cable plugged into a wall wart, it's shorter. It's a higher charge through your house electricity, maybe about 1.5 to 2 hours. But regardless, just leave it alone. You'll know that your unit is finished charging when it stops blinking and it goes to a steady blue light. At that point, you can unplug the USB cable. Now the unit is all ready for use. To add smoke juice to Smokescreen, you never want to have to add it to the white silica. You want to add it to the black felt pads on both sides of the green terminal. Just a few drops. If you have a new unit, add about 5 to 7 drops. If you're just doing a maintenance because you've been using the unit and it just needs a little more juice, just 1 or 2 drops on each side will work. Then you usually have to give the unit about 1 or 2 minutes for the white silica to wick up that juice and be at the right level of moisture so that you get the right smoke. You just take this slide switch and you move it forward. When you do, you'll see the light turn on. That means the unit is on. Now, just so you know, the light is very faint, and in some cases, if the room is too bright, it will be hard to see if it's on or not, so you might have to cup it to see that it's on. Once it is on, it's ready to go. You can just keep it in your pocket. You don't have to worry about a false trigger. It's not going to turn on by itself. And when you need it, you'll extract it from your pocket and you'll place it into a finger palm. Just turn it off, the LED will turn off, and it will hold a charge for a very long time as long as the unit is off. If the unit is in the on condition, it will deplete the battery, but it takes about 8 to 10 hours for the battery to deplete. First, let me show you what happens when you flood the unit. In other words, you put too many drops of fluid on the black felt pads and they inundate the white silica. What you'll get is some popping, some hissing, and not the best smoke production. Not to worry, the more you use it, the more it burns off until it gets to a level that's perfect. Now, when there's too little smoke juice, in other words, the silica, the white silica wick is low on juice and you squeeze, you get very little smoke and suboptimal performance. And the way you can tell just by looking at it, you'll get used to it after a while, is the silica, the white silica turns a bone white, and that shows there's hardly any fluid in it. There's two solutions for that. You can just wait a few minutes and let it re-wick from the black felt pads so it gets the right amount of moisture, or if the black felt pads aren't properly supplying the silica, you can add a few drops of smoke fluid to them, and then that will re-wick the silica. Whenever the unit has just the right amount of fluid on the black felt pads and the wick is perfectly saturated, when you squeeze you get no noise and you get a perfect amount of smoke. Nice milky white smoke. Whenever the coils of the hot wire are a little bit lower inside the smoke box, in other words they're lower than these two forks right here, it produces a little bit less smoke, but it's a little bit safer in terms of these will protect you from any heat off the wire. Normally after you use the gimmick, you should allow it 3 seconds to cool down before you touch the top or you apply it or put it back in your pocket. So remember, always about 3 or 4 seconds after you've used the prop for it to cool down before you pocket the product again. Just to be on the extra safe side, but it does cool down very quickly. That's if the wire is low. If you squeeze it, it gives you an okay amount of smoke. Okay? If you want more smoke, all you have to do is stick your screwdriver under the coil and raise up the coil. So I'm just going to raise it up a little higher. That allows more air to get in. Now it brings it a little closer to the top, so you're not getting as much protection from these forks. So while it's on, just make sure you don't accidentally touch it. But when you squeeze it now, you get a lot more smoke. It probably almost doubles the amount of smoke coming out if you raise that wire right in the center.
Finally excited to talk about this smoke gimmick. This smoke gimmick has been in the works for the last 2 years by Chris Smith. And let me tell you, I've seen him go from prototype to prototype. What I love about this gimmick is it's just workable. It's what practical workers want. They want something that can literally be rugged, they can drop, but it still works perfectly. There are no moving parts inside. Everything is contained literally inside of this box. The moment you turn it on, one button facilitates the on. So as long as you know how to palm an item, that means literally placing it onto your palm, curling your hands, and then pushing the button, you can make this smoke gimmick. The other thing that's really great about this is that it's so small that you could just put it into your pocket. There are no straps like the other smoke gimmicks, and everything is contained. Number one thing, this is really great for those who really want that practical use of just getting some sort of visual inside of every one of their effects. I love it.
Look. Is that creepy or what?
That right there, that's the most simplest thing that you could do with smokescreen. And it's really great. I like to just borrow these quarters. Now if you can't borrow them, you might as well just bring them. So you can have these examined, and what's really great about this is the idea that moving two objects that are against each other, if you move them just right, they can cause friction. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So you start off with the smoke screen in your hand, in the palming position. The button lays right across here, which is the last, at the end of this phalange, right here. You're going to squeeze as you roll both these coins in between your fingers. So you're doing two things. You're going to roll, and at some point, the middle and ring finger is going to push against the smoke. If there is no AC, there's no wind, usually the smoke will rise. So I like to keep it where the coins are perpendicular to a wall. So just make this flat right here against your fingers and the spectator's eyes. This is what they see. When you squeeze the smoke, you make sure you just get enough so they can see. You don't want to get it fully.
You focus right here, watch. Go ahead, check it.
I'll get the ice. I'll get the ice.
I don't have Ryan's glasses on.
It's Virginia. Okay, put both hands open like this. You ever been hypnotized?
Hypnotized, never hypnotized.
This is what you do. Put that around your hand. When I tell you to squeeze, you squeeze. Okay, watch. 1, 2, squeeze. And the tighter and tighter you squeeze, the more and more it goes. Literally 1, 2. Open your hand.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's crazy, right? You can actually bend it more. So if like you were to
Get the
just
fuck
think,
out of here. No way.
if you were to think right here, watch.
What the fuck's that going on? Can't play me, that's fucking brilliant. What do you think that's for?
This right here is the most practical way of doing the bending coin, which is you borrow change from several different spectators, right? So they give you change, it doesn't matter what they give you, nickels, pennies, you want a variety. And at some point you're going to bring your own change and one of it's going to be a bent coin. Now the reason for this is there are numerous different bending mechanisms that will help you actually bend a quarter, such as the ox bender or the quantum bender. All of those are equally as good, but if you want to get in right now and just start working on the bending coin, this is the best way you can do it. Here's your bending coin. They give you the coin, and then you have all the rest of the other coins right on top. So we're just going to place this on top. The selection process is easy. You select the coin because it doesn't really matter. Plus they have no idea what's about to take place. And at this point, you have already taken out your smoke gimmick, right? I know that the bending coin is literally on the palm of my hand, which is this coin right here. So all I have to do is pinch with this thumb, drop every coin except the quarter. Retain that. Because it's still in the hand and you see the arch of the curve, they won't be able to see that if you have your hand slightly bent. They can't. They might think it's just a shadow or something. At this point, you place it into your hand and you start working the coin. They have no idea what you're about to do, but in presentation, you are showing them that you're actually starting to bend the coin. Then at this point, you can show them that maybe the coin is slightly bending. You place it into your one hand and you're going to be in this position. This is an old method to do an optical bend, meaning right here what you're going to do is you're going to literally push with the thumb and the coin starts to curve around your index finger as you push it, and you just let gravity fall. And I know it's a little touchy when you first do it, because when I used to practice it, it would literally fall off. So you have to experiment with your sensitive touch where exactly you're going to end. And you want it just enough so they can see where that optical bend, so you want it just enough so you can actually see the bend happening. And at the same time, you're going to facilitate the smoke coming out. So let me show you how it would look in real time. You start to push the thumb forward with the coin. As the coin starts to push forward, you're going to press with these fingers, middle finger and ring finger. So as you push right here, coin starts to bend down. As it bends down, you relax your hands when you stop bending the actual coin. At this point, you transfer either back onto the table or back onto your hand, showing them the coin is bent. Now, I would suggest when you place it back into your hand, to show them the result of a bent coin, you have to flip it over so they see the edges coming up. Here's the second option if you don't have a table around you or if you're doing walk around magic. So instead of dropping it onto a table or onto a surface, all you have to do is literally pick up the coin that's already bent from the selection of different coins. And once again, they have no idea exactly where that coin is. I'm showing you with the palm smoke gimmick in my hand just so you can understand exactly how the process works. The selected coin, the already pre-bent coin, is picked up like this. The rest of the coins go south, meaning back into your pocket, and then you go into it. Perfect.
Smokescreen is a versatile and great prop. Couple things to keep in mind though. It doesn't work so well if there's a cross draft. For example, you're performing outside and there's a wind. Wind or fans or open windows tend to blow the smoke and sort of blow it out. So if you're in a condition like that, you want to use smoke screens. Just a heads up. Because you generally want the smoke to sort of mysteriously float up. But if you have a strong wind going, it tends to sort of, blow the smoke off to the side, and the spectators don't get the full impact of the effect. The second thing to think about is that since it's white smoke, it's always good to wear black or have a dark background behind you, just because of pure contrast. And I've noticed while working with it that if somebody's wearing a white shirt, or I'm wearing a white shirt and I do the effect and everything's perfect and the smoke's coming up, it's almost like the white art principle. It's like the black art principle in reverse. They can't really see the smoke. So if you want the most from this prop when you are using it, just make sure you're wearing darker colors, or short that, hold your hands or do the smoke and just make sure what's behind you isn't an open window out into the sunlight, but perhaps a darker wall or a dark room. That way people can really appreciate the smoke.
No. Like even if you were to
I will
if you look right here, watch.
Wait, mister! Are you fucking watching it? Dude, what the fuck? What are you? Sir, what are you? You're a wizard, Harry. Oh my god! Harry? You're Harry Potter!
This is the bending spoon. A very, very powerful trick, and it's very simple. You start off with the smoke gimmick in your hand. You borrow a regular spoon. In the guise of just having a conversation with a friend, you take this while still having the smoke gimmick, and you just literally bend the spoon. Now the idea is, this is already pre-bent, and when you're about to show the effect, you hold the bulb against the eye line of the spectator. So basically this is flat. This is what they see. So to them, they think it's it's just a regular spoon. They don't see the bend in it. And when you're ready, all you have to do is tilt the spoon forward and squeeze the gimmick when it starts drooping down. And then stop right there. With the other hand, it's just going to lay on the index finger to show that there's an actual bend. Then you can place it down, you can pass it around, and this is a really great utility to utilize during an optical bend for a spoon. Now the reason why I actually like utilizing less smoke is because I think in the spectator's mind, once they see the smoke come out, or even question whether they saw smoke, to them, their imagination is greater than the actual effect. So it's kind of like a subtlety, nuance type thing, where as long as they can see just a little small nudge of smoke come out, to them, that idea is facilitating their own imagination, and they'll just build upon that. And I think that's really great.
Look, right here, this is the 10. Not your card. Put your other hand right on top. And in your mind, I want you to imagine that card to just change. Watch. Open it. Put your other hands right on top. And you know exactly what you chose, right? Promise. You're not going to get it. You're holding your loser. Open your hands.
This is one of the most powerful things that you can do with smoke, is producing it out of the spectator's hand. So let me show you the positioning so this could be safe with your spectator. You never want to go into the smoke gimmick with this flat against their hand.
It's gonna burn, yeah.
It will burn, exactly. So if I can have, Kalen's gonna place his hand out like this. Let's say this is the object. They place their other hand, and sometimes you have to guide them. So sometimes I like to say, put out your other hand. And if they don't clasp hands together, that means you have to position them, meaning place your other hand.
It's nice to just make contact with this hand so that then when this hand is underneath, it's not completely odd.
Exactly. So I do that, I guide them, and then this is the position that I like to be in. That means my thumb is on top of their hands. On the bottom hand, I have this index finger right across the bottom, and this is actually pointing away. Then I'll squeeze, and I never reference take a look at your hands, right? You never want to point it. You just kind of want them to find it on their own.
And what's so great about it from my point of view is the smoke wraps around my hand, so it looks like it's kind of engulfing it.
That's
and,
beautiful.
The one thing that I know that you do, when we were showing this to our friend Patrick, he immediately just kind of came underneath my hand and held it flat and a little bit too close. Now I don't think it's going to burn me, but if if you do hold it too close, then I feel the heat, and then it takes away the illusion. So it's more about not worrying about burning them, but it's more about just not making sure that they don't feel any heat come off, because then it just gives away where the smoke's coming from, obviously.
You're 100% correct. So when you have your hand open, you never want to hold it like this. That's the wrong position.
And
because you could feel the heat when the moment I start. I'm not going to do it on your hands, but the moment I start pushing the button, that wire right there gets hot, and you don't want them to feel any heat. The idea is for them to just see the visual of the smoke and not to feel the heat. Take a card, any card. Very good. Usually at this point, I would have this card signed, so the 7 of clubs is signed. This is the 7 of clubs. This goes all the way into the center of the deck. You can also verify by pushing it all the way through. There are no shuffles, no cuts. Correct. Good. Put both your hands out like this. Actually, we only need one. That's good. Good. 10 of diamonds is not your card. This is an indifferent card. We're going to place this face down right here, where you place your other hands out like this. We're going to cross it like this. Now, if you were to imagine that 10 of diamonds in your mind, focus. Imagine changing that just in your mind. I want you to do it now. And the more and more you think, the more and more it starts to happen. Do me a favor. Turn that over. 7 of clubs. This effect is the card that changes in the spectator's hands. It's very simple. I have a card selected. Once that's selected, I ask the spectator to sign the card. While he's signing the card, I take this top card and I flip it face up. So if you can just hold that. While he signs it, once again, I flip it face up. Either you could just sort of come to your side and just sort of necktie it and flip it up on your own. Or you can actually do this on the side of your jacket. You just flip it up like this. Boom, you're ready to go. So when you retain it, you're going to come back and you're going to place that on top of the top card that's already face up with a break, because in a second you're just going to do a double lift, meaning you're going to pick up 2 as 1 and place that into the center of the deck. Boom. No need for shuffles or cuts, because the spectator's card is still back on top. I'm going to ask the spectator to place his hands out like this, mimicking that he's ready to grab something. And in that fashion, you'll have time to grab this in your pocket. So you say, excuse me, can you place your hands like this? That's good. Sometimes that takes a little while to register what's going to happen. So you place your hands into your pocket to grab the smoke gimmick real quick. And then you kind of adjust his hands and you go, okay, perfect. And you go, in fact, I only need one hand right here like this. You're going to do a double lift, meaning you're going to pick up 2 cards as 1. The easiest way to do this is to push 2, 1, 2, and then come back with your other hand that has a smoke gimmick and just square everything up. Once again, you don't want the smoke gimmick to be seen, so you kind of want to be towards the side, especially if the angle of the spectator is from this side, or their eye line is from this side. You come back, you do a double lift, place that card down. From this point, I'm going to ask him to place his hands right on top. And sometimes you want to show it. You want to help them, assist them in doing this, because sometimes it's never clear. But it also, being able to touch them, touching the spectators, allows you to control them. You know, you always want that. You're going to come with your smoke gimmick underneath their hand. Your thumb's going to be at the top, your index finger literally right on the bottom, and you're clamping down on both their hands like this. You're going to squeeze But before I like showing the smoke coming out, I like to utilize my other hand as the idea that this hand is actually enabling the power of the magic to happen. And then you're squeezing for the smoke to release. So when you do that at the same time, literally it seems as if something mysterious is truly happening. You step back, you tell them to open up their hands. The moment they open up their hands, you place the smoke gimmick south, meaning back into your pocket as the card is being revealed. Mr. Hands, will you reach out, take any one of these cards? That is correct. At this point, I would actually have this card signed. This is the 8 of diamonds. Can you cut about half the deck? It doesn't matter where you cut. That's good. Do me a favor, place that into your other hand, just the way I'm having. Put your other hand right on top. That is the target. Your 8 of diamonds, I'm going to cause to vanish. X marks the spot. You'll see it go from here to literally just vanishing. Do me a favor, remove that top card, place it right here. And this is the big reveal. That is very good. That's the 8 of diamonds. Put both your hands open one more time. That's good. Put your other hands right on top of the deck. And in your mind, you're going to focus. I want you to focus right here. We're going to try vanishing the rest of the deck while it's still in the control of your hands. Actually, if you hold on, we're going to remove one card. Your card. You can keep that as a souvenir. Watch. Gone. Open your hands. This is the effect with the Omni gimmick. And I love this because it makes sense. Basically, the Omni this deck gimmick, or what seems like a deck, is going to turn into a solid object. So here's the routine. Here's just one phase of a 4-part routine that I do for an ambitious. It's a strong phase. Spectator picks a card, any card. It's very good. At this point, you're gonna turn the face card while they're signing that card, whatever you want to do. And then you're gonna bring their selected card back on top of the face-up card that you have ready for a double lift. Then you're gonna place that onto the table. You tell them to cut half the deck. They cut half. At that point, the spectator actually has your selected card on the top of the deck, which is now in their hands. You're going to tell them to place that into their other hand, similar, to place their other hand right on top. Very good. Because this is the same action they're going to use when they do the Omni deck. At this point, they think this is their card, so what we're going to do is we're going to do Rub-a-Dub Vanish. It's very simple. Basically, you're going to place this back onto the deck. As you're acting like you're going to wipe something from the table, you place this card down as you show your hands empty, and 2 things are going to happen. You're going to close your windows and you're going to pull back the card, maintaining that supposed selected card, which is an indifferent card, back onto the deck. So this is how it is in slow motion. Boom. They think that card is underneath, but it's not. You're going to act like you're picking it up, and then you're going to vanish. So in real time it looks like this. This is their card, supposed card, that vanishes. X marks their spot. You're going to wipe something. You're going to act like you're going to place it underneath your hand, which at this point is really on top of the deck, but it's an indifferent card. So even if they were to look, it's not even their card. You mimic as if you're going to vanish the card that is supposedly underneath your hand. It vanishes. You tell them it's jumped from there. They pick up the top card. At the point of revealing that that's the top card, you grab the deck. Then you're going to switch the deck for the Omni deck at this point. The moment you've gone into your pocket, you've switched it for the Omni deck, you come back, you might give it some time tell a couple jokes, say a couple stories, come back with their card, place that back onto the Omni deck, and say, right before I leave, I'm going to show you one more effect. Place this back into their hand, place their hand right on top of the deck. And remember, you have to always be in control, so don't be afraid to always touch the spectator. It's very important to always be in control of your own effects. So after they put their hands on top, you need to remove the selected card on top. So now the only thing left is the Omni deck. So let's go back to the beginning. So I like to say I'm going to vanish the deck, and that gives it, they now want to even squeeze it more because they don't want me to get into their hands. And I go, you know what? Better yet, let's do this. I'm going to remove the top card, and then they forgot a while back that that card is actually their card. And what I like to do is I kind of like to flick it like this and show them that this is their card, because this is a souvenir, because what's about to happen is something they're going to be able to tell all their friends. And at this point, once you place this Queen of Clubs, you're going to tell them to squeeze their hands so you can come back and grab that smoke gimmick. You come back with the smoke gimmick, ready to squeeze the gimmick from underneath the hands. You're going to be holding your hands in the same vein you did with the card change that we did. Thumb on top, fingers below. You tell them to focus right here, focus on vanishing the deck, and squeeze. And the harder and harder the squeeze, the more and more it goes. What I'm doing there is I'm just squeezing at the same time I patter with the smoke gimmick. Snap my fingers, relieve myself. As they turn over, this quickly goes south. The deck is now totally solid. And I like to always toss this onto the table or onto a surface or onto their hand, just so they can either feel the weight or they can hear the sound of the Omni deck. Alright, so for all the mentalists out there who want to add another layer of really good visual mentalism, this is the perfect way of using smoke. If you have a specific reveal you want, this can turn a reveal to make it even more seductive. So imagine if you have a person's name, however you're going to attain that information, whether it's a Sven pad, Parapad, it's a Peak wallet. You gain that information. You can have this laying, Kaylin, can I borrow your hand? You can have this information laying in their hands. Let's say you've done a Peak already. You have the smoke right here. And if I were to ask you to just imagine the name of the person you wrote down, imagine the essence of the person going. And literally right there, I saw it, it's Marcelo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's just, it's so unique, and just adding that little.
I think it's fascinating to just go down the idea of what smoke gives you and what the natural, properties of smoke are. You're talking about fire, burning. So the minute that you start using paper, if you're gonna use a reveal, it's pretty easy to just creatively let logic take over and just see where you can go with the effects of the props that you're using. And I mean, this is so freaking easy to use with
Right. I totally
to add into your other tricks.
I totally agree with him. This is a way to produce a pen in a kind of nifty way. You know those old magic shows where you'd watch a magician pull a rabbit out of the hat, or appear a person, and you'd see the wisp of smoke come out all of a sudden? this is kind of in the same vein. So you do the flip stick move, and the only move in the flip stick move is producing, not the vanish. So you're gonna hide it in your hand like this. But at the same time, you're gonna have the smoke gimmick. This lays on top of it. You're gonna grab it with your middle finger and thumb, and that's gonna be in this position. Whoop, you don't want to turn it on too soon. So that's what it looks like. From the back, you can't really quite see it. And you're not gonna make a big deal because they don't know what's coming. With this hand, usually, I like to grab something and then maybe you want to pass it over to this hand. Your eye line, or the spectator's eye line, has to be behind here. That means they're looking directly at this hand. So this is kind of what they see. I mean, obviously on the opposite side mirrored, so this is what they see. And then you're gonna push for the smoke. Right when the smoke comes out, I like to snap my fingers, and then at the same time I push out the Sharpie. And that's just the reverse of putting it in, which is pushing out with the thumb, relieving with the middle finger, relieving the tension so it just pushes out and you're holding it like this. And then you grab this, the pen, and then you grab the pen with the other hand, and then the smoke gimmick goes into your pocket.
So something that Chris was very smart about when he was designing this gimmick is he put a metal plate inside the top of the gimmick. So obviously one option is you just pull it out of your pocket and you have it in palm, ready to go. The other option is to get to it like if you're wearing like a suit jacket or your pockets are full. So I have a magnet in my back pocket right here, so it's gonna stick to it. Now I can easily grab it into finger palm and directly go into it from there, which is really nice. So it's just an extra thing to keep in mind of when you're thinking how you're going to steal it, how you're going to bring it into play. Keep in mind that it has a metal plate, and that, you know, if you put a magnet on a part of a jacket, inside a part of clothes, a hoodie, pants, underneath your shirt, whatever it is, it just makes it extremely easy to steal and ditch. So that's a really cool point. What were some other things that we were talking about earlier?
Couple of the other things were, you and I, we kind of work in two different fields of magic. So you're kind of like super creative, consultant. I work in the corporate field, practical worker. Like, what are the, I guess, takeaways for you that enable you to kind of, this gimmick help enhance sort of what you're doing?
I mean, I don't know. For me, I think that I would immediately go down the route of just having it in my hand and thinking of like the top 5 tricks that I do, and thinking, okay, do any of these make sense if you add a little bit of a visual like punch to it with smoke? And then if they do, like at what points can I hold other objects? Like if I hold a deck of cards, can I hold a deck of cards and can I trigger it like under a deck of cards, maybe by holding it lower and the deck of cards on top? You know, like I would just start seeing what kind of other objects I can hold with it. You know, if I'm holding my phone, like we just go down that route. That's probably
that's actually really, yeah, that's clever. And for me, because I work in the corporate field, there's always the list that we go through for carrying props, which is it small enough? You know, is it gonna fit into a pocket and not be so cluttered? And then, is it justifiable? Is the effect justifiable for me? Is it strong enough to have around? You know, most workers, we only want to carry stuff that's strong enough, that creates impact and will create like a long-lasting memory for the effect. Other than that,
yeah, I think those are some really good points. I think, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a utility device. You know, it's not its own trick. Making smoke appear is an interesting thing, but it's not something that people are going to go home and talk about. But adding it to really strong routines, and that adding that like finesse to it is what makes this so cool. You know, it's the same. It's the same thing. Like, it's really just a more practical version of the stuff that you wish that when you see the smoke trailers online that you wish you would actually do, but you're never going to do because you're never going to do that setup. So you just now can't do that.
Exactly. Because most of the time, yeah, it's just so heavy-handed. I think that's good. You nailed it. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. It's just food for thought. Just food for thought. Yeah. Creative people, corporate people.
If you should ever break your hot wire, you can replace it with the spare hot wire that's included with your smoke screen. Use the provided screwdriver and go into the terminal block and unscrew the existing wire. Once you've unscrewed the 2 screws, just reach in with your screwdriver and pull out the broken wire and discard it. Now get the new wire that's included with the extra wire that's included with your smoke screen, and you'll place the 2 leads into the open holes of the terminal. Make sure they're pushed all the way in, just wiggle them to make sure they're all the way in, and then tighten with the screwdriver. Once you've attached the new wire, turn on the unit, add just a little bit of juice, and do a quick test just to make sure it's attached correctly. Perfect. It's working great. Now all we have to do is install it inside the smoke box. And to do this, use your screwdriver by pushing down on the wire then taking these strands, putting them under that black fork, and then taking these strands and putting them under that black fork. That's step 1. Step 2 is to wrap the silica into the smoke box. And you want to push it down into the felt so it's trapped between the overhang and the felt. That's one side. So once again, trap the silica between the overhang and the felt. That way it will wick the felt effectively. If necessary, add a few drops onto the felt. Allow a few minutes for the silica wick to wick up the juice, and then press the button to test. And there you have it. Install the wire properly, you'll notice that the coils going around the white silica wick are halfway between the front of the smoke box and the green terminal at the back. So they're right in the center where the hot wire is. The ends of the white silica are tucked under the walls and between the felt and the walls, so they won't move. They're also tucked on this side between the felt and the walls. This is a perfect installation. It's what your installation should look like. And that way when you add smoke juice to the black felt pads, which act like gas tanks, the white silica wick will suck it up and provide juice for the hot wire.